anything but a series of tweets.
Oh, yeah, but well, hold on. It's coming up a sec.
Okay.
All right, and we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Game Source, and the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to all of our great shows. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or any other outlet that goes ahead and shares reviews and gives out reviews, please, if you can, if you like what we do, please give us a 5-star review. And you can also leave your comment or question there as well, and we'll go ahead and read it on the air for you. But we cannot thank you enough for going ahead and being a part of the program today. But with me again, as he is every week, is my good friend. He is the man behind LakerHolics.net. You got to be a part of the conversation today. And boy, there's been a lot of conversation lately with the Lakers now on top at 14-2. But you got to check them out right away at LakerHolics.net. It is Tom Wong, but you know him better as LakerTom. LakerTom, always great to have you back on the show. And before I forget, because I have a tendency to forget things, I wanted to go ahead and wish you and the family a wonderful Thanksgiving week.
Thanks a lot, Gerald. We're looking forward to it. I'm trying to keep my weight down, and Thanksgiving is always a challenge.
I hear you. I mean, my wife sent me an article the other day about, because we're going on a trip soon, and she said, and it said in the wintertime, one of the things you don't do, you don't go on a diet before you go on the trip. So it's like, I've been going on a diet. I can't do that anymore. It's just like, but anyways, all right. Getting back to what we need to talk about, and that's the Lakers 14-2, number one, best record in the NBA. Just so great to see them continuing after a couple nervous times in Oklahoma City and Memphis, let's say that. Their defense did not exactly live up to expectations, and I'm sure there's some reason why, and we'll go ahead into that in detail later on in the program. But I wanted to talk to you first about an article that you put out there, that you tweeted, and that you retweeted, and that you retweeted. And as I'm seeing it now, it shows up 7 straight times on your feed. But I know this might be a Twitter thing, but, you know, or you could have just loved that article so much. Hey, no problem. Self-love the article. I'm all for that. But it is a great article that you wrote on Frank Vogel himself, the head coach, about him being brought into the fray, him being actually like a frying pan. He was actually like a fish into the frying pan because of the fact that, you know, he came in, he wasn't the Lakers' first choice. They hired his assistants for him, which also happened to have head coaching experience. And in one case, more head coaching experience than him. And you know what? He still managed to go ahead and take all that aside, with a lot of people saying, hey, he's gone in 10 games. He's not going to stick with it. He's not going to be a part of the program. And you know what? He's not only been able to survive, but he's also been able to thrive. So I ask you, my friend, Frank Vogel, he's done a tremendous job so far, but I want to hear what impresses you most. And especially out there, if you get a chance, read his article that you can go ahead and check out at LakerHolics.net via Medium.com. But I want to hear your thoughts on Frank Vogel and why he's done so well with what has been given to him.
Well, it's a little bit of serendipity that the Lakers ended up with Frank Vogel, because as you said in my article, I basically said I thought he was the third choice of the Lakers.
I'm not sure he was even that. I mean, publicly he might have been.
There was a lot of people who wanted Luke Walton to stay around. There was definitely some interest in Monty Williams, and everybody was surprised that Monty actually took the Suns job while he was still in contention for the Lakers job.
And Tyronn
Lue, who basically was, you know, almost you could say LeBron James handpicked coach. And Ty Lue basically wanted a 5-year contract, and the Lakers wouldn't give him a 5-year deal, so he walked. Now, Frank Vogel had been brought up in the discussions along with Jason Kidd as one of the two coaches that the Lakers wanted to have on the staff, but originally they were looking at him as an assistant coach. My article is titled "What a Difference Coaching Makes," and I really think that, you know, I've said before in our previous podcast that there are 4 architects of the Lakers resurgence. Basically, Rob Pelinka for the great job he did in building the roster, Frank Vogel for the great job he's done in coaching the team, and the two superstars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, for the way that they've participated in the building of the roster, supporting the coach and everything that goes with it. So you can't really separate out one of those four factors and say that they're the key to the whole thing working. But the things that I like about Vogel start with defense. When you compare Luke Walton, Tyrone Lue, Monty Williams, Jason Kidd, or any of those players out there who were candidates for the Lakers job, nobody had the resume or the defense first philosophy that Frank Vogel had. And I'm a big believer that when you build teams and coaches and front offices, that it's really important to have everybody on the same page, have everybody have the same philosophies, the same pushing in the same direction. And with the job that Pelinka did in bringing 6 former players who were all defensive NBA players on that roster, it seemed to me that the natural perfect fit for the coach of that team was Frank Vogel, because you knew, regardless of anything else that he did on offense, anything he did with structuring the way that the practices were going to be run, anything he did in substituting during games, his focus was always going to be defense first. That's how he got his reputation with the Pacers in Indiana, and it basically, he's evolved a little bit offensively, adopting the 3-point line, sort of appreciating the fact that offense has to start from the outside in rather than inside out, as it used to do with the Pacers. But he still believes in defense starts at the protecting the rim. And it's just been a sensational job to see what has happened with all of these defensive players. We knew going in that Anthony Davis was going to be one of the top defenders in the league. You knew that Danny Green still had that same defensive mojo that he's shown throughout his championship career. But then there was Avery Bradley and a lot of concerns because Bradley the last 3 or 4 years has not played good defense. He's been injured a lot. He's been put into the wrong situations on teams without strong rim protection, which then opens him up for getting beaten by playing aggressively on guys. So he was a big question mark, and a lot of people thought it was a odd choice that Pelinka would go after him. And then you've got the ultimate case of Dwight Howard. Here's a guy who everybody laughed when they first brought him aboard, or even talked about bringing him aboard. And I really was not a favor of it at the start, but after watching him a few games, I predicted early in the season, I think on our first or second podcast, that he was going to be the wild card for the Lakers this season. Well, you take all of those pieces together, and what do you have? You've got a terrific defense. It's slumped a little bit in the last 2 games. The last 3 games have all been thrillers, basically. If you're the type of fan who wants to just turn into the fourth quarter and watch a great game, those 2 games against the Thunder and then the game, last night, those were all games where nail biters right down to the end, and the Lakers were lucky in all 3 situations to come out with wins. Lots of clutch play and some clutch defense down the stretch. They were able to pull it off. So I think everything with Frank Vogel starts with the fact that he's the right fit. You got a roster full of former all defensive players, the guy that's the best fit to really get the most out of those guys and get LeBron James back to playing the kind of defense he did in his early years before he started using defense as a way to rest for offense. So Vogel gets an vote primarily because of his defense orientation.
Fair enough. Yeah, he has done an outstanding job. Let's put that right out there. I mean, I'm not displeased at all in what he's done. With what's been given to him, he's done really a miraculous job because you have the other 2 coaches, Jason Kidd and Lionel Hollins, who could have just been plotting behind his back, could have done some really mean things, could have gone out of the way to try and go ahead and do little things to get the Lakers off to a bad start so they would have a better chance on getting his job. But you know what? They have come together as a coaching staff. And let's not forget Phil Handy, Mike Penberthy, who have done also a great job working with the team as well. They have people in there that are really doing a very good job of trying to get the Lakers focused on what they need to do to attain that success. And they need to keep on going ahead and driving and focusing forward. That's been an issue lately, is focus, I think, especially on the defensive end. As their numbers drop, they're still top 5 in the league in defense, which I think is about where they should be. Hopefully, if everything plays out, is somewhere in the top 5. It's great if they're number 1, but right now with, you've got Avery Bradley out of the lineup right now. I think he keys a lot of that defense, and I think him not being there hurts the actual overall equation. But you can see the focus cannot be there for the Lakers over the course of 82 games. Maybe it's because of age, maybe because of other factors, but still to be somewhere in the top 5 in overall defense and to be just outside of the top 5 in offense, that tells you right there the Lakers are actually putting a better focus on what they need to do to go ahead and get things done. Even as one thing slips, one thing moves up. So it's nice to see that. You and I were talking about at the beginning of the season how bad the offense was right out of the gate. Now, mind you, the three-point shooting is not quite there yet, but there are some signs. It's getting a little bit better, and I'm hoping that there's going to be more things done to integrate the offense even more, especially when LeBron James is not in the lineup, because he facilitates a lot of that growth and a lot of that spread offense, and he goes ahead and does a great job of doing that. But again, it comes down to me where when he's out of the lineup and he's resting and whatnot, the Lakers have to go ahead and put out a better effort on both ends of the floor to go ahead and maintain whatever advantage they had with LeBron in the lineup.
I think a lot of it, Gerald, is the league has become a guard-oriented league, and the move that the Lakers have made essentially to make LeBron James the point guard has really resurrected any doubt that anybody had in whether or not he's washed up LeBron, because he sure is not. I mean, he's been playing elite defense, elite offense. He's leading the league in assists. And the plus minus when he's on the floor is incredible. I mean, he's like the tops in the league as far as the plus minus on the floor. Anthony Davis is actually slightly negative on plus minus on the floor. So I think the big and Frank Vogel's seen that. I think the big move that he's made is really wanting Anthony Davis to start to exert himself so that we can truly have LeBron go and sit on the bench, have Davis come in, and then have the team not miss a beat. And I think that's the key, that he's staggered them very well so that one of them is usually in the game at all times. There's a few periods where we'll try to run an offense without him in there and Rondo in there. And Rondo, Rondo's shooting more than I know you like, Gerald, that's for sure. He took 16 shots the other night, and it's frustrating. He's shooting 35% from deep, and which is about where he shot last year. It's just that I see him take up 2/3 of the shot clock, dribbling around and hunting for assists and so forth. So we definitely have a few holes that Pelinka wasn't able to fill. We really need that. We really need Iggy, that defensive small forward, to come in there and play against the other team's top scorer. And we could definitely use a top grade, point guard who can really distribute the ball well and shoot from deep and be a threat, have some gravity from behind the 3-point line, which Rondo doesn't have.
Or even someone on the buyout market. I was hoping that the Miami Heat would not be able to go ahead and have the kind of season that they're having. I was hoping Goran Dragic might slip through their fingers, and he would be a great fit ahead of Rondo. But I don't, Rondo, I've said this to you before, I think he would make an outstanding coach, because he's been credited by Anthony Davis and others as being that force in the locker room and also on the sidelines, giving direction and giving input that has helped and benefited the Lakers in other ways. And I think he's doing a great job in that sense. And mind you, I won't talk about his dedication in any bad way, because he is known to go ahead and live in the film room. He is known to go ahead and study at that length. The only thing is yes, when it comes out to him stepping onto the court and not being able to give you what you actually need out of this offense, or even on the defensive side, because yes, he's hunting down steals and he's hunting down assists, which is pretty much what an old point guard does at the end of their careers. They can't do what they needed to do when they once did. They don't fight through screens. They don't go ahead and rotate. They just go ahead and hunt for steals, and then they try to go ahead and hunt for assists as well, like you were saying, which is what he's doing at this point in time. We've seen it. We saw it against Memphis that he was successful on a couple occasions, but for those couple occasions that he is successful, there's many more times where he's not, which kind of burns or leaves the Lakers at a disadvantage.
The biggest disappointment I had in Rondo was the cheap shot that he took during that game where he got the technical foul. And
absolutely. That was. I thought he was going to be kicked out for a couple games.
I said in the blog that he should have been kicked out for a couple of games. I said Vogel should have sat him for a couple of games. I hate that kind of behavior from a player. It's the sort of the Grayson Allen mode of playing basketball, where if you can't beat the guy, then just kick him in the balls. That just is unacceptable. I hate rooting for a guy like that. It just really burns me. It's just not how I see the Lakers, or the kind of basketball that I want to see the Lakers play. And I think it would have been appropriate for Vogel to do something there. On the other hand, Rondo is well liked by the team, and so we'll have to see how that pulls out.
And that's a problem too when it comes to what Rondo does and little things like that, and also Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard seemingly gets an offensive foul within the first 30 seconds of coming into the game. It seems almost like a tradition now at this point. And the way he goes ahead and pushes off sometimes on the opponents, and unnecessarily, right after a play is dead or whatnot, like he did in Memphis, it just makes no sense to me. You don't have to do these things. It's nice that you're playing as the big guy. You're playing as the muscle. You're playing as the guy that is playing the heavy. But we don't want you going over that bounds and playing as a thug, because that just gets you into fights. That just gets you into suspensions. Right. That just gets you into fines, and it just gets you into a situation where your teammates are now having to work harder because you've been kicked out of the game or you've been suspended, and now there's someone else that has to go ahead and pick up the slack because you made a stupid move. And I'm seeing that trend from these two older players that I don't like to see, and I think it's going to lead down the line to for some trouble at the wrong time, at the wrong place, with the wrong player on the other team. That's just going to have enough, and just say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and start with wailing away with getting a fight or what have you. I just see something going wrong with that, because we've already talked about Howard. He's the human offensive pick as far as illegal pick. He's the human illegal pick and whatnot. Just those little things. You've just got to tweak those little things with him and also Rondo. And if you get rid of that mindset, you're going to go ahead and have a better team for it. I know TJ has talked about we don't have that grit. We don't have that edge. But the way that Dwight Howard and also Rondo are trying to find that edge is just not the way I would like to see it, because that's just going to lead to more problems.
Well, there's a fine line to be drawn in those situations, and it's bugged me a few times that Dwight continues to get those fouls. But the other side of it is that he hasn't fouled out yet, and he's gotten away with it a lot. He's got, offensive rebounding is nothing more than pushing and pulling and grabbing and yanking guys out of the way and fighting for the boards, and we've physically been able to, and I think Vogel likes that about Howard. I think Vogel likes a hard foul. He's not opposed to a guy getting really banged when he goes into the lane, and Dwight, more than anybody else on the team, is going to do that. I separate that though from Rondo kicking somebody in the groin. That just draw the line there, And you just got to be careful about that. The only thing I worry about with that whole thing with Rondo was the first time that I worried a little bit that I wondered whether Frank should have done something just to keep him in line. There's a hesitation by veteran coaches to let veteran players get away with most things, but there's a certain point in time when something isn't the way that we play the game, and I would have liked to seen Frank step up with that. Having said that, in addition to his defense, I've been thrilled with the substitutions that Vogel's made. He's really moved Caruso into the lineup ahead of Daniels and Cook. And Caruso's playing the best defense on the team. He may not make the great blocks that you see AD doing, but he has the best defensive rating of all of the players on the team, and was in the top 5 players in defensively in the league who at least played 20 minutes a game and had played 10 games. So that's pretty incredible, and it shows something about the Lakers scouting staff and ability to develop players coming up. I've been watching this kid, Talen Horton-Tucker, play in the South Bay Lakers, and that kid is he's going to be something special, I think, down the road. He has hands the same size. He's a 6'4" guard. He has hands the same size as Kawhi, and can leap out of the building. And he's shooting threes, and he's got a great handle. He's got a great feeling for assists. He's a player that I think has a good chance that he could well be part of the team in 2 or 3 years, and could really be something special. And we're going to need that without the draft picks that we gave up in getting AD. But I think Frank Vogel's done a terrific job. He makes the right substitutions. He calls the right timeouts. LeBron was praising him for the kinds of plays that they have coming out of timeouts and coming into the second halves. He's been pushing the right buttons, and that's an important part of being a coach, because it just develops confidence. So the teammates, his players, accept the fact that, okay, you're coming in, now you're coming in. And every time that Frank makes a decision, it seems to be working out. We've got 3 more games. I predicted earlier that we would be 16-3 or 17-2 when we finish November, and I think we have a doggone good chance of being 17-2. We've got the Spurs tonight. They've been struggling. Everybody seems to be really down on them. It's a perfect game to get upset, of course, naturally, when everybody's talking about how terrible the Spurs are. Then I think we've got who do we have in the next 2 games? Is it the
next 2 have after that? We're at New Orleans, and then also as well for this week, Wednesday we're playing New Orleans, and then Friday we're back at home versus Washington.
Yeah, and all 3 of them are trap games when you look at it. The Spurs would love nothing more than to win. The Pelicans, come on, are you kidding me? They're going to be sky high for us. And we've got a couple of former Lakers playing in the Wizards that are doing great. Thomas Bryant and who's the other guy on that we traded?
Mo Wagner.
Mo Wagner, who's hitting threes like crazy.
Well, Thomas Bryant, we just let go. Mo Wagner, we had to trade.
Let Thomas Bryant go, but he was a great player for the Wizards last year, and he's doing great this year.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm not 100% all in on Rob Pelinka yet. Yeah, those little things like that, just some of the things, evaluations that he's made. He's done a great job with what he has now, but it's a whole body of work. And I'd say, you can't give him that A+ because, like I said, Thomas Bryant is walking around doing what he's doing. Mo Wagner, I understand why they had to go ahead and trade Mo Wagner, because you had to clear cap space.
That was a Magic Johnson draft pick. Michigan boy.
Well, Mo Wagner's been playing well, and I understand why you had to give him up because of the fact that I think it was the last kicker, because of what was made in regards to
he needed to free the cap space for Kawhi.
Yeah, but also and also AD, I think. But you also had there was a little faux pas in it that he had to give an extra second round draft pick as well. So, be that as it may, I mean, he's done overall a very solid job. I mean, 14-2, you can't argue with that. I mean, there's little things like that you go ahead and whatnot. But well, okay, when you're talking Washington, you can't forget Isaac Bonga, who, as I quoted at the time, of what was said before in the draft, he was 2 years away from being 2 years away. He's still not ready for the NBA at this point in time, even though he started some games for Washington. But you know what? It's just, that's just not a good sign right there for him.
Jesse Buss can pick players, though, can he?
Well, and that was also Magic Johnson too, saying he was going to be like him at a 6'8" point guard, just because he was a tall. Yeah, that's there were other players around that time they could have gotten that would have done a lot better. But need I digress? But still, going back to what the Lakers are doing now, they're 14-2. They're really focusing in, hopefully a little bit better, especially on the defensive end because it has started to slip. Is that of concern to you going forward that they're going to go ahead and maybe hopefully focus on their defense again, or do you think they can maintain something like that, or do you think it might actually slip even further?
Well, one of the things when you look when I looked at the first few weeks and we were having a defensive rating under 100, I went back and looked at the defensive ratings that that were number one in the league at the end of the year for the last 5 or 6 years, and I think I had to go back like 7 or 8 years before I saw a team with a defensive rating at the end of the year under 100. So I think inevitably we're looking at a small sample size, and you're going to struggle as you go along. I mean, at one point in time, we had like 12 out of 14 players under 100. We've got 3 games against teams that we should easily beat, and to finish November. Then we've got 3 games against teams that could easily beat us. You've got the Mavs, the Jazz, and the Nuggets. First 3 games in December. Those are 3 pretty tough opponents. I think one of the things is that it's only human nature when you got LeBron James and Anthony Davis that you're not putting your foot on the pedal as hard as you would if you were playing the Jazz, the Nuggets, or the Mavs. And then I think also those are big games for those teams. When we go to play the Pelicans, that may be the biggest game of the year for the Pelicans, at least until Zion comes back. And so we get the best shot from every team, and it is the NBA. These are the 450 best players in the world, and believe me, at any given night, it's like the any given Sunday thing. Any given night, a team can shoot you out just like that. So I hope our defense will improve. I think that it's going to struggle a little until we get Bradley back. Bradley is the key because he's the player who basically really slows down the point of attack for us. Caruso can't do that. KCP is a good defender, but he again can't do what Avery can, which is really get into the space of the ball handler on the other team and prevent him from getting that defense rolling. That's a big difference. So I think we'll suffer until we get back. I think once we're back from this road trip, there's an opportunity that Avery could be back, and I'm hoping we have him back for those first 3 games in December because that'll be critical. My over-optimistic, glass completely full hope is that we would hit 20-2 by winning the next 3 games against inferior opponents, and then going ahead and taking down 3 very, very good teams and putting us at 20-2. If we could do that, I'd be in 7th heaven.
Well, we'll talk more about that on the next time you're on the show, hopefully next week after everything is played out for the Lakers with hopefully another 3 great wins under their belt. But before we head on out, my friend, you got to start. You got to tell everyone out there exactly why everybody needs to be part of the conversation today at LakerHolics.net. LakerHolics.net is the premier source of just connecting with Lakers fans out there. So I want to hear from you why LakerHolics.net is the place to go if you're a Lakers fan.
Well, one of the things that's happened with news in general used to be when I was first a Laker fan that you'd pick up the LA Times and that was about it. You didn't find Laker news anywhere else, and you had everything in one place. Then came the internet, and you got everything spread around where basically you're following Twitter, you're following Instagram, you're following Bleacher Report, you're looking at Lakers.com, you're looking at a dozen different blog sites, looking at all of the articles and so forth. There's aggregators who are putting together the articles left and right, Yahoo News and so forth. But what I found is most of the people on LakerHolics.net basically are following the stuff right on the side by going to the site because they get everything there. Because if there's a Instagram, a tweet, an article on Bleacher Report, an article in the LA Times, or any of the local papers that has anything to say about the Lakers that's important and you would want to know about, it's going to be posted in LakerHolics.net by one of the regulars who constantly posts things in there. And so I think that it's sort of like a one-stop shop for Laker fans who really want to see everything that's happening, find out everything that's happening as soon as it happens, and get a lot of great conversation and dialogue and opinions and thoughts about what's going on. Everybody there is free to have a take on everything that they want to talk about with the Lakers. And believe me, everybody takes their take. It's a constant conversation, but it's always done in I think in good character and with respect to the other people on the site, and with respect to everybody has a right to their own opinion. But a lot of smart people and a lot of really diehard Laker fans. So if you want to join that conversation and be a part of it and find a place that is home for you as a Laker fan, LakerHolics.net is the perfect place to go.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Once again, that's LakerHolics.net. Please be a part of the conversation today, and you'll be glad you did. All right, my friend, it's been a great episode. If anyone has any questions out there, you can always email us, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, at LakersFastBreak on Twitter, or if you can, leave us that 5-star review, You can go ahead and leave that comment or question right there for you. As you do, we truly appreciate it, and we'd be truly indebted to you if you do. Or you can go ahead and subscribe to us today on YouTube. Lakers Fast Break, our channel's right up there and running right now. So we're really glad if you go ahead and be a part of that too as well. See the great conversations that we have firsthand before they hit the airwaves. Be glad you did as well. So LakerTom, it's hopefully going to be another great week. Once again, all the best to you and the family this Thanksgiving. And to all the listeners out there, I wish you nothing but a happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday. And of course, my favorite holiday right after that, Black Friday, because it's time to go shopping for some Laker stuff this Black Friday. Any plans for you? Oh,
nope. Going to watch the Laker game tonight and working on LakerHolics.net. We're redoing the blog. It should be, I think, early December. We should have a completely new layout on the site and lots of new features. So it'll just even be better.
Sounds awesome, my friend. LakerHolics.net is evolving into something even more special, so everyone has to check it out all too soon right there at LakerHolics.net. And you know what? It's just so great to be a part of it in any way I can, any shape or form. Just so awesome to have you part of this show, and we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do so. This time next week, my friend?
Yep. Count on it.
All right. Hoping you're...
We'll celebrate it.
I'm hoping you'll be like, Johnny Carson. You'll have the Swami hat on, and you go ahead and, with the reading of the envelope and those prognostications of, the Lakers being 17-3, are hopefully will be 17-2 will be right on the money. So I'm just hoping for it. I'm just hoping you'll be right and you're the man. In fact, if that's the case, we need to go ahead and start talking about some California lottery numbers, my friend. If that's the case.
Good enough.
There you go.
Happy Thanksgiving, Gerald. Happy Thanksgiving, Laker fans.
And happy Thanksgiving to you as well, and everyone out there from all of us at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.